no discipline at all. But discipline done right is going to be our greatest tool and our greatest thing that we have to change the hearts and the directions of our kids. And so here's what discipline is. Take notes on this, write it down, because it needs to get in your heart. Because if I know what discipline is, then it's going to help me have a greater understanding of what to do in circumstances in my life. Discipline number one is love, 100%. That is what discipline is. I love you, so I must correct you. I love you so much that I don't want you to ruin your life. I love you so much that I don't want to let you have a bad habit that's going to hurt or hinder your marriage or hinder you in your job. That's how much I love you. And I know you're not going to like me in this moment, but I love you so much I'm willing to lay down my life so that you can have a better life. That's what discipline is.
Well, and I think all of us know or have come across someone who now as an adult and maybe struggling to adopt some character can tell you, I really, really wish as a kid my parents would have held me accountable to more or would have trained this into me as a younger person, because it's a lot harder to learn some of these character traits and some of these character qualities. It's a little bit more difficult to learn them as an adult, especially, when we have habits already in place. It's just something that we're going to have to go back and retrain ourselves to. So be motivated by that. Be encouraged by that. That there are people out there who mom and dad did give them everything. They were spoiled and they were like the center of attention. And they grow into adults who didn't like it. They grow up into adults who are kind of like, I don't like this. I don't necessarily fit in with other people. Other people get annoyed with me quickly. My relationships falter. And a lot of it is because they weren't trained to think about other people from the get-go. So be encouraged by that when you're in the middle of the storm, when you're trying to train your kid, and it isn't fun, and it is a battle. Be encouraged and motivated by the why you're holding them accountable. Amen. And what it's going to produce.
I wonder how many habits we have. We're like, I wish my parents would have dealt with that. Man, it'd be so much easier to be happy all the time if I was taught to be happy as a child. It'd be so much easier to be a giver if I was taught to give as a child. And so we want to make sure that we set our kids up for success.
I want to add really fast on that note, specifically in the area of quitting something. How many people say, I really wish my mom would have made me stick with guitar. I wish my mom would have made me stick with piano, right? I wish my mom would have forced me to finish that dance class. So often I hear so many adults that knew back then that they were absolutely 100% gifted in the area, but because they didn't want to do the busy or the hard, the training parts of the fun, and their parents let them quit, they look back now and they really, really regret that they were not held accountable to not being a quitter. We don't quit. Make that your family identity or part of your family identity. The Andersons, we are people that when we make a commitment, we follow it through and we finish it. Your kids are going to grow up into adults who are so grateful that you taught them how to stick with that and learned a skill in the process.
Amen. Number 2, discipline is about change direction. Get this in your heart. That's what discipline is. It's not about this and this punishment. It's not about spanking. It's 100% about just changing direction. What do I need to do to change the direction? This is where they're going, and this is going to hurt their life, and so I just need to simply change the direction. And so that's going to really help you as we go through the flow chart and stuff to remind yourself, wait a second, I just need to change the direction. That's all that I have to do. And what's great about this is how it adapts to every different child's personality. And so what it finds out is you just need to find out their kryptonite. For maybe let's say a 13-year-old girl, changing her direction could be as easy as just taking her phone away for a week, and that changes her direction. But changing the direction for a boy, maybe he's like, well, I don't need a phone, I'm fine without a phone. And so maybe change his direction is going to be something different. Maybe take video games away, whatever it is, but we have to find our kids' kryptonite and say, you're headed towards trouble, and that's unacceptable. And so we have to change your direction in life. And so maybe they have wrong friends. Maybe they're not first-time obedient. Maybe they're a little bit mouthy. Okay, how do I take this and I change the direction for them?
I love that because, people think, well, I don't know that I agree with the whole concept of spanking my child. Well, here's the great news. You may have children that that doesn't work with them anyway. Scott and I, we had like so many variations of what worked with our kids, and I can honestly say it's been, I don't even know when the last time was that you had to discipline.
No, spanking.
I mean,
we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
You get them in the early years, and then you don't. And I think the kids talk too. I think the older kids told the younger kids because they have never had a spanking that I can remember. Peyton, no, he don't get nothing. Savvy, she's a princess. I don't think I can remember ever giving her a spanking.
Well, I
Maybe
think
she's a little boop when she was 2 years old or something.
Well, I think, first of all, like, starting young is really, really great. But I also think that the concept of relationship, when you have your kids' heart as they get older and older, and you start to see their love languages, you find some other avenues. So just so you know that, as we're headed into the discipline and how do we do that, the relationship is going to really, really matter.
Amen, amen. All right. Here we go into your flow chart. If you ain't got one, make sure you get one. You can probably hold your hand up, and one of the ushers will make sure that you get this flow chart. This is going to be your buddy. It'll be your friend. Put it on your phone. Put it on your refrigerator. Take it with you until you know it, and you can go through it mentally. But there are going to be, for a period of time, where you're going to all right, here we are, and you're going to go, okay, and you're going to walk yourself all the way through, and you're going to come up with, basically, this is how we should handle this circumstance in life. This flow chart is a lifesaver. All right, here we go. In your flow chart, under B1 and S1. B1 is behavior, and S1 is going to be skills and talents. We have to have an understanding that not everything in life is behavior with our child. Not everything is moral or immoral. There are things that are not a behavior, and they're skills and talents. And it's so important that we recognize this, and we don't treat skills and talents like we treat behaviors, and we don't treat behaviors like we do skills and talents. And so as parents, we have to have a good understanding of what the difference are. They're neutral. Riding a bike is a skill and a talent. Not riding your bike in the street when I asked you not to ride in the street, that would be a behavior. Hitting a ball with a bat, that's a skill and a talent. Not hitting your brother with a bat would be, can I get it? A behavior, right? And so we have to be able to identify these and be able to treat them in the differences that they are. You don't want to treat a skill like a behavior and a behavior as a skill. The goal of skills, this is your goal, dealing with skills. So I want to motivate my kids. I want them to give their best. I want them to learn the importance of practice and learning how to be great with what I've been given. And so this is the goal we as parents have with the skills and the talents in their life. So in S2, we're going to write down verbal praise, because skills and talents is about encouraging them. So going through encouragement.
Verbal praise is huge. I believe that verbal praise is something that can work with absolutely anyone. It's effective with every single one of us. Whether you're a words of encouragement, love language person or not, we all like to know that what we're doing is working, that what we're doing is blessing people, even if that's a child to mom or a child to dad. This is such an effective way of kind of cutting off any further need for discipline, to just get in the habit of elevating the good. Get in the habit of letting your kids know when you're happy that something was done correctly. Because whether or not they're showing it to you right now, they absolutely want to be good and please you. So if we can get in the habit, because it's easy sometimes to fall back on, I don't know, just maybe the norm of what you're used to saying. And maybe, certain, I know for us, at certain age limits or certain ages, we got so crazy busy. And I would find myself so rushed and so in the midst of going from one activity to the next that I would forget to say, thank you so much, or you know what, I loved when you did that. And I know we're talking about skills and talents, but this goes hand in hand with everything, whether it's a skills and talent or a behavior, the whole verbal praise. Get in the habit of just positive words in your home, telling your kids what they do that you think is absolutely fabulous and amazing, whether it's a skill and talent or whether it's a behavior. Just start working on that. And then you're going to find that it falls over to the spouse, and it's even more like amazing that way too.
It is more amazing. So the verbal praise, they need that, and you need to find ways to say it. But you're really trying to point them towards success and point them towards practice and the importance of practice. And so, wow. Didn't that, those 2 days that you went out and threw the ball and you were hitting the ball this week, man, I really could see a difference in your game, right? And even when they first started, I know when Peyton first started wrestling, he goes out and he's going against these kids that have been wrestling for 3 years, right? And he gets done and he's lost every match. And in my mind, I'm like, you suck so bad, right? Right? And you're like, oh my gosh. But I have to be that parent who's encouraged, hey son, those kids have been wrestling longer than you. If you just keep working at it, you're going to be fine. Hey, remember this 3 seconds when you didn't get pinned, right? Remember, and so you're trying to find the positive in it and the good in it, and that's what our job is as parents, is find the good, even when it looks like they failed. We still want to point out the good for them and encourage them that, man, you can do this thing. Hey, let's just keep working on that. We need to go to practice this week and get in the wrestling club, it's amazing. The kid then begins to see a little bit of success, and you point it back to him. Remember, you're practicing, then you won your first match. Oh my gosh, you took second in this tournament, and you'll see the progression, and what you're teaching your kids once again is the importance that if I want to be great at anything in life, I just got to practice it. I just got to get some more wisdom, understanding, some more preparation in me, and I can have success so that when they become adults, when they have a failure in their life, they're like, oh wait, no, I know how to beat this. Subconsciously, I just do what I was told by my parents when I was a kid in the different things I wasn't good at. So verbal praise is good. Kids love that.
Yeah, don't agree with their negative words about themselves. So like if you've got a child, our Baylor, he was the really weird kid in football. He was so weird.
You saw him run?
Oh, he looked weird. And then it was so awkward.
And everybody's like, whose kid's that? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. But he was passionate about it. And he would, I expected him to come off the field and be like, that was terrible. He thought he hung the moon on the field. And as a parent, you were just like, oh my gosh. And then he got this really weird, he got that when he had eczema on his eyelids. And it was from wearing the helmet, and he would sweat in the heat. And he loves heat. He doesn't bug him. It doesn't bother him. And everything in me, I thought, oh my gosh, you come off the field and you're a hot mess. He was so excited and so joyful. And then we had another kid that every time that something, they would come off and they'd be like, I didn't do that well. I didn't do that great. And I'd be like, yes, you did. You did amazing. The fact that you keep getting out there is so crazy awesome. And so don't agree with their negative words about themselves. Remind them that they keep doing it again and again. They keep getting up. They keep getting out there. There are people that fail because they get down one time and they never get back up. Your kids will absolutely be successful because they get up again, they get up again, they get up again. So don't agree with wrong words.
We got videos of Baylor, in football, and the kids are running a play, and there's kids being tackled and pushed, and it looks like Baylor is following a butterfly around.
Yeah, no kidding.
And
it's not even that is a true story.
What are you doing, son? What are you doing?
And he wasn't 3. He was old. He was old enough.
This
was
16.
not. Yeah, it wasn't Pee-wee football. It was
he's 3rd grade, old enough to go, son, focus. So we steered.
We're so happy and proud
I'm glad
of
you got that butterfly, but son, you need to watch the play. You need to be in it. You're doing good. And point to the practice. Praise of all praises is, of course, unexpected praise. There's one praise when a kid comes up and says, hey, here's my picture. What do you think? And you're like, yeah, it was great. That's good praise. Great. They came, they asked for praise. But the praise that is unexpected, when you walk over and you put your hand on the shoulder and you go, oh my God, you are so talented. I am just so impressed with you. Look at you practicing your piano. Savvy was doing that the other day. I came in and I'm like, oh my God, took a moment, gave her a little hug as she's doing it. I'm like, you are so good at the piano. And her little face all lights up. It was that unexpected praise in their life. Number 2 is in front of others, is the praise of all praises. When you can do it in front of grandma and grandpa and others, and they're like, man, he is it. And we say that about Baylor, even though he sucked at football. We're like, he is so good at football, man. You should see him out on the field. And you give him the praise of all, and it just inspires them and it makes them feel good. It still feels good at my age when my dad will say that around, my son is such a great teacher, and it still feels good today. Your kids need that. How many times do you hear parents go, man, he's a handful? See, those are the words that bring him down. And he's not very good at math. He's not, right? And we bring him down. No, I want my words to bring them up and raise them up. All right, S3. Writing that one in, we're still under skills and talents, is goals. We give our kids goals for skills and talents. And so our goal is that, hey, if you ride your bike, then I'm going to give you a reward. So it's goals and rewards. And so if you can learn to ride your bike, hey, here's a reward. Hey, in the football game, if you get a tackle, every tackle is worth $1. I do that with Ben. Every tackle is worth $1. And so there's nothing wrong when it's skills and talents to have different goals and set some goals for your kids, because life rewards excellence. Life rewards when you do a little bit better. And so I'm teaching them when it has to do with goals and talents that you can be rewarded. But it is not for behaviors. That's very important. If you don't hit your brother, I'm going to give you $5. That's not a skill or a talent. That's a behavior. And so it's good to make sure we know the difference between the two. At Grandma's house, if you don't embarrass me, Dad's going to take you out for ice cream. Once again, we're teaching our kids to do the right thing for the wrong reason in life. But when it has to do with skills and talents, those are great ways to have those rewards in life. All right, here we go. Now we go down to where we want to be, is the behaviors in life. The behaviors in life. Now remember that the behaviors are all about the heart. Actually, in B1, you can write down heart. And it's all about changing the heart of the child. Now, behaviors can go in two different places, either positive or negative. I like the positive, which is B2 is encouragement. We're going to start down with B2 first, which is encouragement. Because I would rather elevate the good than suppress the evil. Now, I know we have to suppress evil, and we'll get to that, but it's so much funner, it's so much better to elevate when the kid does good things than it is to have to deal with the bad. And I'd like to be a parent who, most of the time, I'm elevating the good. You can be at a store, and one kid acts great, and one kid acts out, and all we do is we focus on the kid that acted out, but we didn't do anything to praise the kid that was doing great. Let's take our time to make sure that we are elevating the good within our church, and within our kids. All right, B2 is encouragement. The pat on the back is very strong to do. E1, right in E1, the pre-activity. This is going to change your life. I am a firm believer in the pre-activity, as Holly's got this whole little thing put together. Pre-activity will take away 70-80% of the problems that you have when you go places. This is how powerful it is. All right, here we go. E2, write in verbal reminders. Verbal reminders, life-changing. So you know that you have a trouble, let's say, and this just comes up right off the top of my head because somebody was talking about this morning already. And so you have trouble dropping your kids off to class. And so on the way to class, when you're going on the drive-in here, you say, okay, remember that when mommy or daddy drops you off, we're going to be smiling, be happy. Mommy always comes back, and she's going to come back. And so we're not going to get upset. We're not going to get mad. You can do the same thing. Hey, we're going into the store. Remember, kids, we're not going to get any candy. We're not going to ask for any toys today. We're going in the store, and we're going to be quiet, and we're going to behave. And so you're just reminding the kids, because kids forget. 3 years old, 4-year-old, for whatever reason, that little reminder gets right in the top of the brain, and it gets them prepared to act in the right manner when you first show up. E2 is verbal reminders, I said. E3 is questions. I like this one. It's the same thing as E1, except for I put it back on the children when they get a little bit older, 3 and 4 years old. Because it's one thing for me to tell you how to act. It's another thing for you to tell me how you're supposed to act. Okay, we're going to Grandma and Grandpa's house. How do we act? And the kids got to go, okay, we don't go in and out of the house. And then one kid's like, oh, we don't touch Grandpa's TV unless he does it. And they're like, okay, we don't run in the house. And so the kids now are going down into their warehouse and coming up with the information. When I have to teach something, I always learn more than when I'm taught something. And so we're put into place. One of my favorite things is we're going to the store, and I'm like, all right, kids, how do we act? And Peyton was probably 3 at the time, and the kids are like, we don't. They're like, oh, we don't touch stuff, and we're quiet in the store. And Peyton's 3. He's like, and we don't pee on the floor.
So weird. But here, can I add to that?
Nailed it.
Okay, so here's the thing. You know, as parents, we want to set our kids up for success. So we want to make sure that they've got all the information. I mean, kids forget. They've got a lot going on. They got a lot in their mind. So with this whole pre-activity, the verbal reminder, the questions, you're simply wanting to find out, have I educated my kid enough in this environment or where we're headed to know how to act? And by asking questions and by saying things like, how do we act in the store? You're going to find out firsthand whether or not it's really stuck inside of them what you expect of them. And it just sets them up for success. Rather than getting there and thinking they already have the information, they already know what you expect of them, and maybe you have told them. But sometimes, again, there's a lot going on up in their little heads, and so this whole activity helps you. It's not like you're taking the responsibility for them. You're just making sure that what you maybe have already instructed has stuck inside of them. And maybe it hasn't. So by having this pre-activity moment, it could be on the drive there. Hey, headed to grandma's. How do we act at grandma's? What is important that we do at grandma's? And every kid is different. So the instruction that you've already given them, again, it maybe have gone through their little filter and it may come out completely wonky. I never taught my kid not to pee on the floor at the store. I'm glad he didn't. But what a weird thing to come out. And you can go, why would you even say that? So these moments are super awesome because it's literally what, 5 minutes, 15 minutes before you land in the environment. And you know that whether they got it before you went, now that you're talking about it, they do know. And so after the fact, if there's anything you need to take care of. So it's just, again, like I said, it's not taking the responsibility or the accountability like we said last night. This is finding out whether or not we've educated them enough in the environment that we're headed to. And it sets them up for success. And that's what we want. We don't want to, sabotage the kids' experience and set them up for failure by not making sure they know what we require and what our expectation of them actually is.
I don't want to have to discipline them. And I like what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
My goal is I don't have to. My goal is that you show up good. And so it literally puts it in the forefront of their mind, and it reminds them when they walk in, and it's very helpful for them.
And it cuts down on the whole, well, if I do good, do I get a toy? Like, we've had kids that did that. I mean, I love getting my kids a book when we're at the store or something. And there have been seasons where it happened a lot more often than other seasons. And so then it started creating this environment where they thought they got one all the time. And so you have to pull back. This pre-activity shuts down, and you can have the tantrum in the car if they're upset by, you saying, no, we're not going to get anything at this time or in this specific incident. You can go ahead and deal with it in the car rather than having to deal with it in this store. Either way, we're going to have to deal with, stuff. And so this pre-activity helps you to go, okay, they've got it. We can move forward. We can go into the store. We're going to have a great time. And there you go.
Amen. E4 is, and Holly talked about this last time, is positive words. How you say things in the pre-time is just in the wording. Don't run, or you can say, please walk. Don't spill your drink, or be careful with your drink. And so before the activity's happening, in a sense, just how you phrase things can either be positive or negative. And we have parents who, it starts with the little things. If I can start with the little things of being positive, that little stuff will begin to transition into all the areas of my life, and I begin to speak more positively than negatively. All right, E5 is the post-activity. Yes, pre-activity is important, and we want to make sure that we set them up for success, but we want them to keep succeeding, and we want them to keep doing good. And so the post-activity is so important that there is a reward. And when I say a reward, it doesn't have to be financial, it doesn't have to be anything. The reward could be just encouragement, which is E6 is praise.
Okay, well, what I wanted to say, especially you mentioned someone with a little person having a hard time going to class. Pre-activity and post-activity is massive for those little persons. I remember every single one of my kids, they would do amazing at the nursery, and then it was like they would hit these milestone age markers, and all of a sudden it was like a complete meltdown before we went in the nursery. And it was like, well, this is new. Like, you've been going to the nursery for 3 months. You're amazing at it. You love it. And within, they're 6 months and 10 months, and then at these certain markers. And so what I started doing is I started saying, I didn't hide from my kids, or I didn't sneak out on my kids. I was just very blunt and very bold. This is what we're doing. We're going to be happy doing it, even while they're screaming in my face. I'd say, you're going to do so great. You're going to be so awesome. And Mom is going to come back. I'm going to be gone for an hour and a half, and I'll be right back, and you just wait and see. And I would pass them over, and they're screaming, and they're mad, and they're annoyed, and I would leave, as hard as that is. And the one thing I did is when I returned, my first words out of my mouth was, see, I told you I would come back. I told you. Didn't you have a great time? Because, hopefully by then, an hour and a half later, they are smiling. Hopefully you're not picking them up, although those times happen where you pick them up and they look exactly the way that you left them, and they're sweating and they're snotting because they've cried the entire time. But you still say, oh, Didn't you have a great time? I'm here. I came back. See, I told you. And what we're doing is we're developing some trust. And how many of us know how valuable trust is in every important personal relationship? Trust is so huge to the success of relationships. And our kids have to learn at a young age, trust me, just trust me. You've been entrusted to place inside of them some important stuff, and it's not always going to be fun. So if you can grab that little heart, if you can grab hold and get them to start learning that word trust mom, trust dad, you're going to be really, really, really glad you did, and you're going to be way more successful earlier on than later on.
All right, the two ways that we do it, E6 is praise. Praise. You don't have to buy me anything, but, we all like to be praised. If I do a good job at work, I like somebody to say, good job. I mean, wherever I'm at, it just feels good to be praised. And so, man, you were so good at Grandma and Grandpa's. I was impressed with it. I saw you share with, what's her name, with your toy. Wow. I am so lucky to have a kid like you. And what that does is because people always do what feels good, right? Whatever feels good is what we do. If it feels good to share because of what my parents said to me, then I'm going to be more apt to share. If it feels good to behave because I got some praise and some stuff that I need, God designed us to love praise. And so be those parents that at the end of the activity, you're able to find the good, you're able to praise them.
Look for those things that maybe your child struggles with as well. We had one kid, he was extremely antisocial, and he just liked to be by himself. He enjoyed his own company. And in preschool, at the preschool level, the teacher would say, I kind of think he scares the other kids away. They'll come over to try to join him, and he just gives them a look like, why are you coming over here? And he would stare at them. And he still kind of does that today, like with certain things. And so what I started doing was when I would go a little bit early, and he would see me, and he wasn't that kid that got all excited. He'd look at me, and then he'd kind of like go back to whatever it was he was doing. And so later on, I would say, I saw you had a friend come over and join you. That was really awesome that you let that friend play with you, and I love that you're making friends. And so also remember to speak over them the little tiny things that you see when you start to see something, just even a tiny bit of success in an area that is really challenging for you. Just don't allow it to trip you up. Just speak over him what you want to see. And now he is like, once you get his heart, he is the most loyal friend to all of his friends.
Yes.
You can't get him to
He has his friends over every Saturday night. They just hang out and have fun. He's just a little butterfly.
No, what was a different child I was
Was it
talking
really?
about?
I was thinking of Baylor.
No.
Not that he should watch this. It's not you.
No, it's Heath.
Oh, it is Heath. Yeah, he's
Very strong-willed.
He is. He gets into something and he's all in it.
Yep.
And that's what he does. All right. So praise, E7 is a reward, not every time, but there's nothing wrong with as long as it's not expected, because I'm not going to raise a Shamu that does behaviors right and here's a little fishy. But instead, the kids did really good at the store. And you know what? Pick out some candy. If I do it every time, then it becomes expected. How do you know it's expected? Just say no one time and see what the kids do.
That's right.
If they get upset and mad, it became expected. So it's no longer a reward. It's more of a payoff. And I'm not going to do a ransom payoff with my kids. I'd rather be a reward. And so, I'll be like, hey, why don't you pick something out? Or Savvy, get this or that. I am so impressed. I saw her she was doing some sharing on Minecraft on her own with Logan, giving up her diamonds, which is really hard to do. And I was impressed. And so when I took her out to Daddy-Daughter Date, I said, hey, let me get you something. I was so impressed with how you were sharing with Logan. Her face a little light up. And so I gave her a little reward. And life does that. It doesn't, when I do things to get a reward is way different than when I do things and then God does reward me in a lot of great ways. And so once again, we are just teaching our kids what life is all about.
Well, sowing and reaping. I mean, it's a Bible principle. And so when we teach our children to sow certain things, that they're going to reap it back, that they're going to reap a harvest for what they sow in their life, that's a Bible principle. And some of us as adults, maybe we weren't trained that and we weren't given that information as kids, and it's been a little bit more hard for us to grasp that concept as adults. Our kids will never struggle with that if we are putting the word inside of them as we're parenting alongside the word.
All right, we are back with chapter 11, and here we go. Let me read you from you Proverbs 29:17. A disciplined child, a corrected child, gives you rest. Doesn't that feel relaxing? Another translation says a delight to your soul, and I don't like that. How many of us, we've had times and moments with our kids where they were not rest, and there was no delight to my soul whatsoever? We want, but once again, it goes back to in order to get the delight, you have to do the first part. Can't get the second part unless you've done the first part. And so we've been talking about, and we're getting even deeper into it this time, of the correction and the discipline of our child. We're going through the flow chart, and this week we're going to start with the correction side of things. And so in B3, write in correction. And then you'll see up above will be B4, and then below will be B5. B4, write in childishness, and then B5, write in foolishness. This is going to help you as parents be able to see the heart. Remember, God looks at the heart, and our concern as parents is not so much about the outside, but we want to change the inside. I don't want a kid just to act good until they get out of the house. I want them to be good. I want their character on the inside of them, their moral warehouse to be right. And so in that, it's very important for us as parents to be able to identify the difference between childishness and foolishness. Childishness, it's an accident. It was just an accident. While foolishness is a rebellion of the heart. Important that you're able to recognize quickly which one of those two are, because we have to deal with them totally different. Peyton may be riding his bike and he falls into the car and puts a little scratch in it. He didn't mean to, right? Yeah, it's annoying. But it was childishness. Now, had I told him 5 minutes earlier, you're riding too close to the car, don't ride next to Dad's car, and he continued to ride around my car, well then, now it has become foolishness. Maybe the kids are playing out back and they're kicking the ball and it breaks the window, right? And it was an accident. It was childishness. But let's say we had come out there earlier and said, hey guys, you're playing ball too close to the house. You're going to break something. You're going to break a window. And they continue to play. Well, once again, now we have moved into the foolishness realm of those things. Hey, a kid spills his milk. Well, dang it, you spilled milk. It was an accident, I get that. But let's say, as they had their milk, I said, use 2 hands and be careful with your milk. And they just kept with 1 hand, and then it spilled. Well, now, once again, that was rebellion, and that was foolishness. And it's very important that we know how to see the difference, and we discipline those things differently. Because if you discipline a childishness like foolishness, you will have a child that will grow up and resent you. But on the other hand, if you have a kid that's doing foolishness, and as a lot of parents do, they deal with it as if it's childishness, then they raise a fool. And we don't want to raise a fool, so we have to, one, know the difference, and then know what to do with the different things. And we're going to start off first with childishness. Childishness. So what do I do with childishness? You see in C1 is a warning. There's a warning. So a kid comes home, he's excited because of something that happened at school, and he leaves his bike in the driveway, and he comes running out in the house, and he's like, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. And then Dad comes home, and either he hits the bike or almost hits the bike. It was an accident. That's what it was. He didn't mean to. He wasn't trying to teach you a lesson. He didn't leave it out there on purpose. It was just an accident. But then again, I want to make sure that my kids, they learn, they grow, they know that as an adult, man, you don't want to do these type of things. And so you give them, number one, a warning. Hey, son, you left your bike out there. I need you to remember, that's how your bike is $100, $150. And so, that's how it gets ruined. And so it could get stolen. And so you give them the whys to it. And so let's not leave our bike out there. Maybe you come home, you're like, hey kids, let's go out for ice cream. And the kid's like, hey. And then they leave a mess where they were at. They don't clean anything up, and they come up running. And then you come back home, you're like, oh my gosh, what in the world's going on here? And so, like, all right, guys, hey, yeah, I know I said let's go. All you have to do is give me the information. Go, hey, Dad, can we clean up the mess? Or Mom, can we clean up the mess? And so you're training, you're teaching your kids in the moment. Now, had I said, hey, clean up your mess, and then we're going to go to ice cream, and they didn't, well, once again, now that's not childishness. That is moved into foolishness. C2, it goes into related consequences. So sometimes there's got to be some consequences that happen in their life. In C3, write down property. So I gave you a warning, you left your bike out, right? And once again, I got to change direction. But, 3-4 days later, maybe a week later, the bike's left out again. He got excited. Well, okay, the warning didn't work. I wasn't able to change your direction. And so because of that, now we got to come up with some sort of related consequence to help change your direction in life. And so, maybe there's going to be a loss of property. So I say, hey, son, you can't handle the responsibility of your bike. And so we're going to take your bike away for a day, or maybe we'll take it away for a couple days. And so there's a related consequence. They were supposed to be home, by 4 o'clock after school, and they got home at 4:15. Well, close enough. No, it's not close enough, because I don't want a kid that's 15 minutes late in life. It's that 10%. And so, hey, son, I gave him a warning. I gave you the warning last time, and then this time you're late again. And in a job, you're getting close to getting fired. And so I have to teach you, I guess tomorrow you're going to have to come home right after school and for the next 3 or 4 days. And so there's a related consequence.
I was just going to add on property, another really good example is, they break a window, they break a lamp, they're running in the house, they, damage someone's property. A related consequence is having to use their own hard-earned money, their allowance money, whatever it may be, to replace that damaged property. That's a huge one, is when they've broken a window or they've ruined someone's toy, and it was an accident, but I mean, how many of you know that even in an accident I owe someone an apology? And I mean, that person, it's not their fault that their property is now damaged or their toy is damaged, because we accidentally did something, but we do need to make it right. It doesn't make us bad, it just makes us responsible. So that's another huge one. If your children, damage a sibling's toy, well, you're going to have to replace it. You're going to have to fix what you broke.
And that's awesome, because that's C5. Write that in. That's personal responsibility, related consequences. Because sometimes we have to teach our children responsibility.
Yeah.
You broke somebody's toy. And here's what parents do. And we talked about this last night. We take away our kids' problems, and we don't allow them to have problems. We take away their responsibility. And to save money, maybe they broke the neighbor so-and-so. And so we argue about why I shouldn't have to pay for it, or my kids should have to pay for it. And you're missing out on probably one of the great parenting moments to save yourself $50. No, the $50 is such a lifelong lesson of teaching that kid that, I know it was an accident. You didn't mean to break their bike. But as Andersons, we have to take responsibility when we make it. Well, it was an accident. I get it was an accident. Accidents happen all the time, but you have to still take responsibility, and you have to pay for it. In life, there was a mom whose kid was mad at Lake or whatever, and keyed his car. We found out everything else. And so, all I wanted the mom to do is to pay the deductible. It's $250. Have the child do that. And she's like, well, this and that. I don't know. He was this. And she had all of her reasons to do it, right? And it come around, and I'm like, you don't have to pay it all at once. Just make payments. Have the kid go out and collect trash. He can work for me, whatever. Have him do it. And she argued around and wouldn't take my calls where he never had to take responsibilities. Well, we wonder why we raise a kid that keys people's car. Is because you've never taught your child to take responsibility for their actions. If you do it, the best lesson is for your kid to have to pay for it. They have to have some pain in the sense of their life is taking that responsibility. I want us to raise up kids. If you break something of kids, a toy, I'll front the money, but guess what? Now you owe me money. And so for the next 4 weeks, you're going to be doing this on the weekend, doing this. You're going to be paying Dad back for that. When Jason and I, we were playing golf in the backyard, and I don't know why we were playing golf in the backyard, but I know that we were, and I was about 9, and he was probably about 7. Jason hit a slice, and it went right through the window, landed right next to my mom's where she was praying. And in the window, I remember it. It cost $30. Now, you're talking to a family that didn't have a whole lot of money. My allowance was $2 a week. That's what my allowance was. So I had to pay for the window, me and Jason did, which is like 7 weeks of allowance. To pay $15 each, we had to pay for it. Guess what? We never played golf in the backyard again, and it was changing the direction. But the best lesson is I remember it today, that when I break something, that I am a person of character who is responsible, even when it's an accident. This is what we want to raise up our kids.
I love in the example that you shared with Lakin, because I remember us thinking in that moment, that kid hadn't been taught to capture his emotions, and he hadn't been taught as a little guy to have self-control. And then look at the bigger event that it played out in. He, for whatever reason, was annoyed, or whatever reason caused him to do it. It lacked right emotions, it lacked self-control, and he just went for it. And Mom still in that event could not see where his accountability was, and to require him to take ownership of those emotions and the lack of self-control and to pay restitution. So you guys, it's huge. We're training our kids that the right emotions and the self-control, being able to have that, it's massive. It's going to help our kids become amazing, amazing adults.
C4 is privilege, right in privilege. They lose a privilege. There it is. It was an accident. So they spilled a drink. You say, hey, be careful with your drink. And then 3 days later, they spill their drink again. And you're like, all right, I guess now that we can't handle drinks over by the TV, and so we no longer get to have drinks in there. Now the drinks are going to happen in the kitchen, and you just, until I feel like you can handle the responsibility. I remember when Peyton, I'd gotten him a little muffin, and I don't remember if he was like 4 years old. And when he got done with the muffin, it looked like Hurricane Katrina had got, like it was just muffin was everywhere. And I had to come to the conclusion, son, you can't handle the responsibility of a muffin over in this room, and so now we have to have the muffin in the kitchen. When I feel like you can handle the responsibility of the muffin and eat it over the plate, and then I'll add the responsibility back into your life. And so once again, teaching our kids we can take away a privilege. They left the bike in the driveway, or maybe I said this earlier, they went over to a friend's house, didn't come back on the time they should, or didn't text you when they got there like you asked. Yeah, I know you got excited to be at your friend's house. I've given you the warning, but now we have to lose the privilege to help you remember to do the things that I ask. It was an accident. I get that. Now, and we're going to talk about this when we get more into foolishness. There is a point where a kid keeps forgetting, and you're not changing the direction, where it moves over into rebellion. Not remembering becomes rebellious. And we tried everything, take the bike away, and we've done all these things, and they just don't remember. Well, as my daddy used to say, I have a way to help you remember. There is a little secret I have, and it's going to really help you remember to put your bike away. I don't want to do that, but that's going to be our next step. And you find with the kids, when they've been raised up in what we're talking about with discipline, that's all they need to remember. And so, once again, childishness can move into foolishness, which now, here we go, right in, we're going to do foolishness. Proverbs 22:15 says that discipline will drive out the foolishness in your kid's heart. That's what we want to do in this. We want to make sure, because I will not raise a fool. So I want to make sure that I'm driving that foolishness out of their heart. Now, there's two different types of foolishness out there. The number one is the one that's easy to see. It's the kid that slams the door. It's the kid that stomps away. It's the kid it's the outward. It's easy to see. Right? And so those are the ones that we easily can see. But what parents oftentimes miss is the sneaky rebellion, is what I like to call it. He's the sneaky one. And the sneaky one to me is the most dangerous, because he doesn't fully come out until they're 15 or 16. You're like, where did this come from? They were never this way. Yeah, they were always this way. You just missed the signs of sneaky rebellion because you weren't concerned with the heart. So the sneaky one is the one that rolls the eyes. They give you the little haughty look. They give you a little, we had another one, that was Heath again, where he would just give you just you'd look over and you're like, oh my God, he wants to hit me.
It was ugly.
And then I would go like this, and all of a sudden his little haughty look went right away. He's like, hey Dad, how are you? Yeah, I'm doing good. We're all doing good, aren't we? Daddy doesn't take those type of looks, no matter where we are in life.
And the 10%.
And the 10%.
Those kids are the 10%. Those are the ones that when you say, this is what I ask of you, they give you 90% of what you've requested, and they reserve 10%. Those are the ones you gotta watch it, because it's easy as a parent, especially as a busy, and the world we're in today, and we're running from place to place, it is so easy to let the 10% slide. But I promise you, those are the little ones, because it was him. With the toes, right?
With the drink, and that don't have your drink in the living room, and here's his little toes right in the living room.
Right.
And you look and you go, are you serious? You're kidding me. You really have to have your toe over the line. That's how I'm going to do it. Well, I can't give you that. But then they're the kids also that'll give you 10% mouthy. It's almost not mouthy. You're like, it's so close to not mouthy. It's so close. But you'll sense it. You know in your spirit when a child is being a little bit mouthy. Mm-hmm. You can tell when they're trying to take that little 10%, when they got a little howdy look, or they're walking around the house and they're ignoring you. Really? I'm your alpha, your omega. I provide with you life and air conditioning and food, and you think that you can ignore me? Oh, hell no. I'm sorry I had to say it, but it had to be said. You don't get to ignore me in my home. With my food in your belly? You got to be kidding me.
Be really careful too. I'm sorry.
No, get him. I get
really-
fired up about it.
Be really, yes, you do.
Ignore me.
Be really careful in this time. Like if this is really, really new for you and you're just kind of trying to make a transition in your home and change some things, make sure that the people that you're surrounding yourself with, the grandmas and the grandpas and the aunts and the uncles, that they understand your heart in going forward from here with Train Up a Parent. Because you don't need someone in your world telling you that the 10% doesn't matter. And you want to make sure that when you're trying to deal with that 10%, the worst thing is to have someone close to you or someone that you esteem or you admire, and they go, "What's the big deal? They gave you half. Come on, like don't." What's up with that?
Yeah, why are you freaking out?
Yeah. And once you've kind of got the heart of your kid and you've been doing this for a while, you'll understand and you'll be able to see the markers of they're dealing with something. And there are moments where I think we've let the 10% go because they had
We'll talk
something
about
else to deal with. But make sure you're surrounding yourself with people who understand. And if they don't understand, then you may have to say, look, for right now, for this little tiny period of time while we're trying to get things under wrap and get our home back on track, I'm going to have to just kind of see you from a distance, just so you can get everybody on board with what you're trying to do. Because no one's going to be held accountable to the way your kids are raised but you.
Amen, amen. All right, now this was great. We're going to go down. Once we figured out that is foolishness, and then B6 is foolish filter. This is a game changer for you right here. And Jason and Kelly had talked about this last night about major on majors and minors on minors.
Yeah.
And this is going to help you tell the difference of those things.
Yep.
Because we do want to make sure that, a kid left his dishes out, as Jason said last night. Okay. Well, there's a way to deal with that. They forgot to put the dish away, right? And that's way different than a kid that tells a mom where she can go. And so I have to deal with that with a different way. And so we have to be able to, this little foolish filter, once again, needs to be your best friend and making sure as soon as I realize this is foolishness, okay, let's then take it through the foolish filter. Number one in the foolish filter is going to be the child's age. Obviously, a 2-year-old is going to be different than a 10-year-old. A child that's 2 that throws a tantrum, I'm going to deal with that differently than somebody, you're 10, and this is how you deal with it. A 2-year-old that maybe tells a lie, and a 10-year-old that tells a lie, and so a 3-year-old, right? And so you take it, and you have to take the age into consideration. Number 2, you have to take in the frequency. Is this the first time? You got a 9-year-old and this is like the first time. Okay. Well, that's going to change how severe that I go with this thing rather than this is the 3rd time this week. And so, man, I told you I did something yesterday. I did something again the day after. Okay. Obviously, we're not changing direction. And so I want to find your kryptonite to change your direction. And so on the first time, maybe I'm going to try it this way and see if that changes your direction. It didn't work. And so now I'm going to have to change your direction, and I'm going to have to go all the way to a little bit more, add a little bit more, if I can say, heat into the moment to change your direction. Number 3 is the context. We don't want to be legalistic parents out there. And so not wanting to be legalistic, we have to take the context of the moment, be able to look into it. So a child that lies, okay, he lied about maybe a grade at school or he lied about something. That's way different than a child that peed the bed at 8 years old and lied to you about peeing and hid it. Okay, I understand why you lied. I'm not saying the lie is good, but I understand why you lied. And so be able to look into the context of the moment of why that happened. Number 4 is the overall behavior. Overall behavior. They're great kids. I mean, you know what I'm saying? They're just good all the time. And something came up, and, it was a pretty big deal, but they're almost always good. And so that's going to change rather than a kid who's been in a bad behavior mode for the last 3 days or the last week. And so that's going to dictate, as it comes to this filter, where I go with this. Lakin, who never mouthed off the mom, this was just always very considerate, and who knows what was going on with his day, and Holly was upstairs, and she was calling for Lakin, and whatever, he couldn't hear, she couldn't hear him or whatever, and she's like, Lakin, and he lets out this, he's like, what do you want? And he was I think he was 14 years old. I was at the refrigerator, and I went, and then I came at him, and he saw me coming, and he's all, sorry, Dad, I'm sorry, love you, Mom, best mom in the world. When I got up to him, By the time I got there, I already been through my foolish filter. He's a great kid, and all he needed, so it never happened again for me in scary whisper voice, go, you don't ever talk to my wife that way. Do you understand that? He said, yes, Dad. No, I'm sorry. I apologize. I just got, okay. So then, like I said, now, if he did it again the next day, then guess what? Or even again on that day or within a week, then I would know that scary voice Scotty wasn't enough to change his direction. And so it's going to go through their overall behavior in life. Number 5, make sure the punishment fits the crime. The punishment, when you're coming up with the punishment, it needs to fit. It needs to make some sense in life. Remember, every time you punish a kid, you put a value on that crime in a sense. Mm-hmm. So a kid hits his sister. And so you're like, all right, or bites his sister, whatever. All right, you got 5 minutes of time out. And then they mouth off. They're real super mouthy. And they told mom, blah, blah, blah. Right? And they're like, all right, now that's 10 minutes over the thing. But then they're running around the house and they break your prized vase. And so then there was a spanking. So really, hitting my sister is not as big a deal as breaking something that can be replaced. And so when you're making punishments out there, you have to make sure as it goes through your filter that the punishment is going to fit the crime. You have your hand there.
I know, I'm just holding myself up.
So you don't want to under, you don't want to over. You're trying to figure out the just right. Number 6 is it has to be reasonable. You're grounded for life. That seems unreasonable. Is that just me? Anybody ever get grounded for life? It's unreasonable to ground for life. And I know you may say it and then make sure that you come back as quick as you can when you get things under control and say, all right, Dad was just kidding, you're grounded, it's going to be for a week or this or that. And make sure that the punishment is within a reasonable time frame. We had some friends out there who were like, yeah, our daughter needs a spanking. She's supposed to get a spanking. And it was like, okay, when did this happen? They're like, a week ago, but Dad just doesn't want to spank her every night. It's a nice time. Well, that would suck to wait every night to find out tonight the night, is tomorrow the night, am I? Oh my gosh, dang, just take care of it or don't take care of it. I don't care which way it is, but you want to make sure that we don't go to bed angry, right? The Bible says that. So make sure that we deal with things in a reasonable amount of time. For a 3-year-old, it's not okay at 10 o'clock in the morning to go, when your dad gets home, he's going to get you. That's unreasonable for a 3-year-old. Just deal with a 3-year-old in the moment. He's not going to remember what in the world he did by the time Dad gets home 5 hours from now. And he's like, why am I getting a spanking? I don't know what's going on. I was just, hey, Dad. And he's boo, right? Wow, right? And so, once again, just using common sense and reasonable.
Well, I was going to say it's counterproductive also, because depending on the age of the child and when you go ahead and discipline for an infraction, what happens is they may have forgotten. And so now you get yourself all upset, you get the kids upset, and they don't even remember why they're in trouble. So then what's going to, more than likely, you're going to see that same situation pop back up maybe next week or the week after. So it's really, time frame is huge. I mean, just sometimes we don't want to deal with it and it's not fun, but we have to, and we just have to persevere at it, deal with the problem, and get on the other side of it. I mean, nobody wants to be sitting around. I, as a parent, don't want to be sitting around waiting till, Dad gets home to have to deal with whatever. I mean, most of it I dealt with for myself. Like, I was kind of like, I'm not going to wait for Dad to get home. I'm not going to use that thing and just wait till Dad gets here. I just went ahead and dealt with it because I put myself in their shoes. And then also, as a parent, I don't want to sit around thinking about it all day. The word says to think on things that are pure and lovely and awesome. And so if you're sitting there thinking about that thing that your kid did and they keep doing, it just doesn't make for a really great day. It doesn't make for a really great discipline moment. Just deal with it. Deal with it and be done with it. And then get on the other side of it.
Love
for
it,
you
love
and
it, love
for
it.
them.
All right, once it goes through the filter, you're going to come out with one of 3 things that you're going to do. You went through the filter, and there's going to be 3 levels of consequence. Number 1, you come out of it, and it's a warning. That happens with behaviors sometimes. It doesn't happen. I know that we were